Today is Wednesday, September 11th, and today I learned and kind of realized and was trying to work through the fact that I stink at talking, and my communication skills are just doo-doo. I don't know, I'm just bad at talking. I've realized that I am more of a listener rather than a talker. Yeah, I just like listening to people talk about themselves and then providing the input that I can rather than just always talking about myself. I don't like talking that much. But the problem that this creates for me is that I rely on the other person to create good conversations. And I don't when I am listening to the other person, I don't add enough to the conversation to keep it moving, which is what you're supposed to do with a conversation. I don't know how I'm so bad at that. I don't know, I'm just really bad at it. I'm bad at when I'm listening to someone, I'm bad at adding to the conversation enough so that it keeps moving. When I do have a chance to talk about myself, I just don't like talking about myself, which is not a bad thing to not want to talk about yourself. But if you need to use that to move a conversation along or to just have a good conversation, then you need to be able to do that. And I'm just bad at doing that. So I'm just bad at talking. I can't move a conversation along, and I barely provide any input. I just make jokes and barely add anything. And sometimes I'm just yeah. And then I unintentionally end the conversation when I shouldn't have ended that conversation, and I knew I had things that I could say. And then after the conversation, I'm always mad at myself because I'm oh, I could have said this, I could have said that, but then I can't do anything about it now. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Today I had youth group, and I was talking with my best friend. She asked me, so how's life been? What's been going on? And I had so many thoughts in my brain, and I had so many things to say that I knew I could pick one of them and talk about. But then because I had so many, and because I thought, oh, I'm going to be talking about myself too much, I'm going to be, taking up too much time, I just did, I defaulted to, nothing, or I don't know, or, the same thing. And then when I think about it now, I'm oh my goodness, I could have said all these things. Why did I say that? When I could have just propelled a good conversation, I just, stopped it short, unnecessarily. And I'm too conservative with my speech, which I know can be a good thing, especially if you're a person who just talks and talks and talks a lot. You need to make sure that you're not always talking, and you need to leave room for the other person and be considerate about that. But I'm on the other side of the spectrum. I just don't talk enough. I don't provide to the conversation, and I don't talk about myself at all. I just yeah. I'm getting so frustrated thinking about it. So, this is how I'm trying to combat that. It feels so selfish and self-absorbed to say I need to talk about myself more. But that's kind of what I need to do. I kind of need to do that. At least for my situation, since I'm more of a listener rather than a talk a lot kind of person. I need to talk about myself more. And I need to not be afraid to bring a conversation where I want it to go. Because I get very frustrated when the only conversations I have are just useless, random stories or stuff that has no impact on my life, and it's just I'm going to forget about within the day. I want to have good conversations, but the only way to do that is to build on a conversation and gradually get it more intellectual and actually have a good conversation. And the only way I can do that is if I actually provide value and if I actually just talk about my experiences more and talk about my life more. I'm just bad at talking. And I'm bad at storytelling. When I do think of a story that I want to tell, I never say it in a good way. I'm just bad at talking. If you are in the same situation as me, where you're the kind of person that kind of just listens all the time and doesn't really talk that much, but you just feel like your conversations can be so much better, but you stop it short. If you're in that same position, then let me know in the comments down below, how, what helps you, because I'm struggling with this, and I get annoyed with myself more and more. I also think this is why, like, I communicate so much better over text. Like, that is so much better of a communication medium for me, because I can think more about what I'm saying. It's easier to just say what I want to say. But in the moment when I'm talking, it's harder for me to formulate my thoughts. I don't know why, though. Why it's not the same. Like, they should be the same, because I'm still, like, saying the same stuff. I'm just kind of struggling with this right now. This one's more of like a, can you help me? But I do have some action points that I got from my sister, and that I got from my friend, and that I just know from, like, watching communication videos and stuff. One thing, when you're trying to propel a conversation along, ask questions. Like, keep asking questions about what the other person is talking about. And I think this is something I can really utilize because I'm more of a listener. So asking a simple question is easy for me to do. And it really helps, like, move a conversation along. That's the first thing. Ask more questions, because also it makes the other person feel like they can just talk freely and answer your questions. And like, if you keep asking questions, then it just keeps going. And it's just good for both sides, especially because I am more of a listener. The second thing that I'm going to try to do to just have better conversations and to just talk better is to talk about myself more and to not be afraid to say what's on my mind. I think that is truly what I need to do. I need to not be afraid to say what is on my mind. Yeah, don't be afraid to say what's on your mind. Because I do, like, there's so many thoughts going in my brain in any given moment, and like, that is what this channel is for. This channel is so that I can talk about the things that, the more intellectual things that I don't necessarily talk about with other people, that I know I can just get out and share with people that will be helpful for other people. So that's kind of what this channel is for, like, specifically for me. But I need to do that more, like, in real life, like, out in the world. I just need to not be afraid to say what's on my mind and not be afraid to get more intellectual, especially in those moments where I know it would be a good time to, like, talk about that kind of thing. Because there is a time and place for just, like, small talk and just, like, talking about, oh, how's your week been, that kind of thing. But there's also certain moments where you can get deeper and get more intellectual, and I just want to have those moments more, but I always feel like the current moment is not that moment, and I'm always waiting for the next moment to be that moment. Hopefully some of you relate to this. I guess this video is specifically more for listeners like me, like people who don't necessarily talk a lot, but want to have better conversations. I stink at talking, but I'm going to try to have better conversations by asking questions when I'm listening, asking questions and trying to add value, and, like, kind of like, I don't know, like a staircase, like building on it as you go. So you take what they said, maybe add something to it, and then ask a question. And then they say something, and you take what they said, add something to it, and ask a question. That's kind of my formula, I guess, for listening and trying to add to what they are saying and trying to add to a conversation. But when it's your turn to talk, and when you are the main speaker, don't be afraid to just say what's on your mind. And don't be afraid to make the current moment a more intellectual moment. Those are the two kind of things that I'm going to try to implement when I am listening and when I am talking. I'm never in the talking spot. I'm always waiting for the person to say something that I can respond to, but I never start those conversations. And when I do, they're just, like, pointless, like I never add anything to it. It's just, like, boring. If you are a listener like me and you don't necessarily talk that much, then when you're listening, try to add to the conversations a little more. Like, add your own special value to it and ask more questions. And if you want to lead a conversation more and lead more intellectual conversations, then don't be afraid to do that. Like, don't be afraid to make a conversation more intellectual and talk about what's on your mind that is related to this subject. So that is how I'm going to try to do this on the listening side and on the talking side. So I hope you found this video helpful. It was a good way for me to just talk through my frustrations and try to kind of think through, like, how I'm going to do this, because I just feel like my communication skills are so doo-doo. So I'm posting every single day, daily insights, just talking about an experience or something that I learned that day and how I'm trying to apply it to my life and how you guys can apply it to yours. So that is what I am doing with this channel. So if you like that and if you want to get daily insights, then subscribe. I've really been growing a lot lately, more than I ever have before, and I thank you guys for that. So like the video if you liked it, and definitely put down in the comments below what are some ideas that you guys have, and what are some things that you've been working on to try to become a better talker and not just be a listener that never provides to a conversation. So that's what I have to say today. Subscribe so that you guys can see tomorrow's video, and I'll see you then. Peace out, brother.